I have showed you over the years, if you look back going 8 years into my library videos, I have shown you tile work, bad tile work in Jamaica. I have shown you tile work in Dominican Republic. I have shown you tile work in Florida. I have shown tile work in a couple other different states, including a couple of showers that I highlighted in both Las Vegas and Los Angeles. And I am in Metro Atlanta, but currently I am in the hills. I'm about 2 hours northeast of Atlanta, up in the hills of Georgia. And believe it or not, there's communities out here, modern communities. I don't mean hillbillies, I mean literally there are some big expensive houses out in this area. And were it not for my GPS, I would be absolutely 100% lost at this point. But I've been called out here to take a look at this shower that a builder did this past year. This is a brand new house. These guys have been here for, I think he said 3 weeks. They're still moving in. And they've had nothing but issue after issue after issue from a builder. So people that get caught up on inspections and building codes and this and that understand you can still get screwed over by a bad tile job. And we're going to check this out. So with the homeowner's permission, I have been able to come into this absolutely gorgeous wood house. When I say wood, I think this is the only area that has sheetrock on it whatsoever. Everything else is made out of wood, lumber of some sort. And I'm sorry I can't tell you. I know there's a lot of different types of wood that are being used here. Look at this deck. Look at that, how they use rebar for the railing, or for the inside parts there. Just amazing. It's a task, you know. The carpentry that was involved in this house is just amazing to me. Even with the shelf and this log, half a log, and they got one outside on the fireplace too. I don't know if you can see it. And all wood floors, of course. And look at these stairs. I'm just so impressed by all this carpentry and all this different styles of, look at that. It's just amazing to me that somebody can build a house like this and put in all the time and effort of doing all of the, look at those beams, it's incredible. And all this tongue and groove on the ceiling, and all this, you know, slat board on here. And then we get into the shower portion. And even coming into the bathroom, obviously there's wood all over the place. Wood doors, looks like they were, this is not a Home Depot door at all. Very nice. So I'm always impressed by other people's trades, especially when they are creative trade like wood. Anyway, getting to the shower, at first glance, it looks pretty good. And, you know, design-wise, for a basic build, although this isn't a basic house, but for a basic build, I think they did fairly well. I don't like the hexagon type of tile, whether they just be the plain white or this type of color. Kind of throws me. It's a lot of grout line too. Not that it's that important to the overall issues, but there are definite issues here. And the main one that I was called about is the pooling of the water. So apparently when the builder came and did the shower floor pan, that there was areas, there were dips to the point where water was pooling up in certain areas. So long story short, the builder ended up sending another tile guy out, and there was one profound area, I think right over here, that, you know, water, according to the homeowner, was pooling up almost an inch, and that was not acceptable. So this guy came in, and I guess he chipped out some of the tile here down to the floor pan level and replaced some of that tile, but there's still a lot of dips going on. And this build, although at first glance, as I said, you know, looks pretty good, there's quite a bit of lippage on this board. And I think what a lot of people run into, and I think you can see with the flashlight a lot easier. I think what a lot of people run into, and I kind of reiterate this over and over in a lot of my videos that I do, is even though this isn't a long plank type of tile, and especially with the shorter pieces that were cut, the issue becomes setting the tile directly to the wall, which is always problematic, and that would include on a floor too. When you try and, if you're not troweling out your thin set, or vice versa, if you're just back buttering your tile and trying to stick it to the wall, not only do you not have good adhesion, but you don't have enough manipulation. And the room that you need for manipulation is probably about a good 1/4 of an inch of material. And if you don't have that, you end up with, I can't even show it, you end up with this pretty profound lippage thing going on. And as I shine my light on it, it becomes very clear. And for a couple of reasons, you can see that this tile is obviously bowed. It's pretty flush there to the tile next to it, and it's pretty flush there, but it's not to the top, because these weren't staggered in thirds. And not that it's necessary to stagger in thirds, but especially in an application where you don't back butter and trowel out your thin set, you're going to run into those problems, not just on walls, but as I said, floors too. Other little tiny issues has to do with cutting this tile flush with the bottom tile here, and having that grout line just kind of taper out to kind of fill in the gap. You can see there's probably about a 1/4 inch here, but then a good part of 1/2 an inch going on over here, and then another 1/4 of an inch. So given the opportunity to have this tile cut down to here, why not just cut it a little bit longer and have it end there? But then it dawned on me as I looked at this, and I've been here kind of looking at this other tile, it was never meant to be the edge of the tile. The edge of the tile looks okay. What they did here, and I didn't even notice this until I started looking at the curb pretty closely, they actually did a miter cut. So if you can see, I don't know if my flashlight will help or hinder, but if you can see, that tile is not as thick as it should be. Why? Because it's a miter cut. Both top and bottom are miter cut. All the way around here, they're miter cut. But it was actually never put together as a miter cut. They didn't bring it down far enough. And especially on a double miter, that's very, very difficult to make that happen. And same thing here as a double miter. So even though the idea of trying to come up with a clean look on here was in their mind, it didn't work out because they never brought the tile together far enough, and so that's problematic. This isn't too bad. The grout's a little bit sloppy, and it's a little bit thick, and it's dug into quite a bit right there. Again, I don't know if the flashlight helps or hinders. So, you know, it's a little sloppy work. It's probably an 1/8 of an inch at best down here and about a 1/4 of an inch up there. And, you know, so it goes for a lot of these minor mistakes. Overall, you know, it's not a bad job, but as I said, you know, the execution of some of these things that happen, like here in the corner where there should have also been miters, there definitely wasn't. The execution never happened. The curb, same thing. So as I first looked at the curb, I thought, well, that's kind of silly. Why not cap the top part off afterward, after you do the side, my flashlight, after you do the side, the inside and the outside, then cap it off? And they didn't do that. And then it dawned on me, That's not the edge of a tile, that's two miters that never came together. This is also two miters that never came together. And as you go up the side of the wall, same thing. See how the tile is very, very thinly cut on both sides, but yet you have a good part of a 1/4 inch grout line going all the way down. And same on this other side. So this is on the outside 1/4 inch, and this is on an inside 1/4 inch where the two tile never butted up against. And then there's a little crack going on here because either there wasn't enough grout or the tile, I don't know why the crack is going on actually, but there's a replicate crack around the same area on this side. Anyway, the point I'm making, and I'm not trying to nitpick every little tiny thing, but there are certain things that I don't do because I'm not skilled in doing them. And I'm just suggesting if this guy knew he couldn't do miter cuts and he tried his hardest in a lot of areas, then just don't. Come in with a Schluter strip, or come in with bullnose, or come in, you know, even get bullnose fashioned out of the same tile, which I do from time to time. And look at that huge grout line. That's probably 3/4 inch at the top there. Tile's popped up a little bit. So there's a lot of little things that incrementally, that's a huge grout line in the corner also. And it kind of tapers off as you go up. But incrementally, all these little tiny things on a house that's this large and this vast and this well done with regard to the carpentry, and then they got a tile guy in here that just didn't seem to have a clue on how to build a shower. So he shouldn't have. He should have just passed on it. Another issue, again, kind of incidental in the scheme of things, if you notice that the grout line is on a horizontal rather than a vertical, and it's a pretty good sized grout line too. So what they should have done is had the tile, it would have been a lot easier for him to have the tile up to the wall and then set the tile on top. So the overlap, the wall tile would have overlapped on the floor tile like that, so that you have this vertical grout line instead of a horizontal. And again, small potatoes, the biggest issue or the biggest complaint on here is all the pooling. And another thing too, on mosaic tile, and I say mosaic, any smaller tile like this that comes on a mat, to me is a mosaic. You know, has to be set right onto a solid surface, smooth, level. When I say level, I don't mean that there's no slope, I mean just that it's flat. And this floor wasn't flat, and that begat a lot of problems with the mosaic, where it looks like they were using their hand to push down this tile, which is a big no-no. You should use a float or a larger surface type area so that all the tile are pushed down consistently instead of what you end up here, which is not good at all. And it shows itself everywhere I look almost. And of course what happens also is when you do stuff like that, you end up with this pooling. So this area here has a negative, I can't show it. If you look on the level, we're kind of level here, but as I move the level around, where was I at? There was a negative, there's a negative right there. So that means right where my hand is at, water is going to pool, because that's a negative. There's a huge negative right there. So water is pooling, which I already knew because the homeowner told me that the water is kind of just pooling in this area. But it's not just that area. If you notice, so there's a slight negative there, but there's also a dip. So those two things combined will ensure that you'll end up with a little pooling around this area. And again, if you're not doing showers all the time, and especially if you're not doing mosaics, this is something you wouldn't know. And so we have a fairly decent slope here, and no dips or anything going on all the way down to the drain. But that area has to be done in consistency with the other areas. Let me see in the back here. So that's actually level. So water will pool slightly there, but in the back here, God, this tile is just so off. So even though that shows that I have a positive on the bubble, very positive, look at all the dips. And so that almost negates the fact, see there? That almost negates the fact of the bubble because there's so many dips here that everywhere there's a dip, water is going to pool. And that was the main concern here because obviously when you have pooling of water, it never dries out, but then you also have the possible water penetration through the grout. And it's a huge problem, and how can you rectify all of this stuff? And then look at that. There's a lot of lippage on individual tiles because, again, I think they were kind of a miss trying to push down this tile with their hand, fingers, whatever they used to make it happen. Wasn't working, and it only shows up really profoundly when I put my flashlight on it. In addition to, I kind of hammer this a lot on my videos for a lot of my subscribers that watch my videos consistently, you'll know this to be true. I always have my tile wrapped around my drain higher than the drain top itself. So I'm probably about 1/4 of an inch. About the thickness, almost the thickness of the tile that I'm putting here is about the height that I'm at around my drain. And each individual piece gets a taper on the edge of it. So when I set that down there and the final product is there, you have positive water flow going into the drain. So that if anything ever happens, the weight, the sheer weight of all the shower material pushes down onto the subfloor or whatever. If something ever happens, that you don't have this negative effect, which we have here. Meaning that now we have a shower drain higher than where the tile is. Probably, I'm going to say about at least 1/8 of an inch, if not more. In fact, it becomes like almost like a lippage thing. The drain itself has lippage instead of the tile. This area is not quite as bad. It's probably a 1/16, maybe, yeah, about a 1/16 of an inch. But this whole drain is higher at some point or another than the tile itself, and that's not good. And that's the reason I specifically do the tile the way that I do. Yes, you could have the tile flush with the drain surface itself, but if anything ever happens to where all this material pushes down, or the drain pushes up for that matter, then you end up with this trouble. And this is what I try and avoid, which is why I do the drains the way that I do. Plus there's a pretty good discrepancy between the tile anyway, and the grout lining there. And then of course the screws on the drain really throw me off because they're not consistent, and that's just a personal thing. Like the screws should be this way or that way, but they're kind of cockeyed. And that's just my little take on it. So don't get caught up in the fact that because you paid a lot for a house, or that you have a spec house or whatever, that the tile guy knows what he's doing. What I'm suggesting is every step of the way, if you're having a house built, every step of the way, you're checking on this contractor or that contractor. Don't think that the tile guy necessarily knows what he's doing, because more than likely he's subbing for the contractor, and he maybe has never built a shower before. This guy is a fairly decent tiler. He's probably done quite a bit of floor work before. He's probably done some backsplashes, but he's definitely not built a shower before. Not to the point where it should be in a house like this. Not because you spend more should you have a better job. I've had many jobs that I've been on where the house was very expensive and it was done wrong. I'm just suggesting to you, because you spend more doesn't mean you're going to get a quality job. I mean, even to the point where he couldn't do miters. Why bother even trying to do miter cut if you can't? If you don't know how to do a shower floor and get it consistently leveled down to the drain, then don't bother doing it. Just pass on the job. I don't do roofing. I don't know how to roof. I don't know how to paint. I don't know how to do siding. There's a lot of stuff I don't know how to do, and you'll never catch me doing that because I'm not skilled in it. So, don't use, for any tilers out there, don't use a shower as a training ground. You should run along another tiler that actually does showers and learn the process and learn how to do it right before you try and endeavor in one of these jobs. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, then subscribe. Hit that button and subscribe. I make nothing off of YouTube, so please be a Patreon member. I'm going to post a link down below to my Patreon account, and you can donate $1, $5, $10, $20 a month. Just pledge that on a monthly basis. That will help me produce more videos and content so that you can watch and learn from my channel. And donate at least $50 if you're going to call. If you're going to call for advice, donate to my PayPal, please. donate first, and then feel free to call me or email me for advice. Otherwise, business calls only, please.